Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. House of Representatives members condemns calls for an interim government. Finland has officially joined NATO, abandoning its principle of neutrality. Former U.S. President Donald Trump goes on trial in Manhattan, New York later today. My name is Evelyn Ohiole. And now we'll look at the news in detail. The House of Representatives has condemned calls for an interim government in the country after May 29, 2023. The lawmakers feared that such calls is capable of truncating the country's young democracy and causing anarchy across the country. This followed a motion of urgent national importance raised by a member, Uyema Idem, drawing attention of the Green Chamber to the statement issued by the Department of State Services, DSS. The House further urged security agencies to be on alert and warned aggrieved parties to await outcome of litigations before the court. The DSS had last month confirmed plots to install an interim government after the outcome of the presidential election. In Africa, Kenya is preparing to launch its first ever Earth observation satellite in what has been described as a landmark achievement in the country's space exploration efforts. The satellite, called Nation 1, is scheduled to be launched next week from the Van der Bank Space Force based in California. The Defense Ministry and Kenya's space agency said in a joint statement that the satellite is designed to provide Earth observation data for use in agriculture, food security, and environmental management. According to the statement, Nation 1 was fully designed and developed by Kenyan engineers in collaboration with a Bulgarian aerospace manufacturer. A delegation from Kenya is expected to travel to the U.S. for the launch. Tunisian President Kais Saied has appeared in a video posted on his official Facebook page dismissing mad reports over his health following almost 2 weeks with no public engagements. Mr. Saied, in the video posted late yesterday, referring to his political rivals, "These people deserve nothing but contempt." The North African country's main opposition coalition had earlier pressed the government to explain Mr. Saied's public absence, saying it had no information that he was sick. Mr. Saied had not appeared in public or held any meetings since March 22. The lack of statements or videos sparked rumors about the state of his health. Speaking alongside Prime Minister Najla Bouden, the president said the reports reflected a level of madness never seen before in Tunisia. To the Russia-Ukraine war, Finland has joined NATO in a historic shift that brings an official end to the Nordic nations' principle of neutrality. The head of the military alliance, Jens Stoltenberg, hailed the move as a good day for Finland's security, for Nordic security, and for NATO as a whole. Finland appeared for NATO membership a year ago in May alongside Sweden as fears of Russian aggression rose in northern Europe following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. But Sweden is still waiting to join the group, which now comprises 31 members. Finland's border with Russia stretches across 800 miles. Russia casts NATO enlargement as a threat to its security and has said it will respond to Finnish membership by boosting its military capacity in its western and northwestern regions.
Today, Finland will become a full member of the alliance, and that means that from today on, Finland will participate in all NATO structures, military civilian activities, and also be at the table in all NATO meetings, and also have a vote and be part of decision making within the alliance. But But of course, most importantly, what happens from today on is that Finland will be covered by NATO's ironclad security guarantees, our Article 5, that says that an attack on one ally will be regarded as an attack on all, one for all for one. Then the President is absolutely right when he says that this has been a gradual development. Finland and Sweden have many years been very close partners. Then after we invited Finland and Sweden in June last year, they got an other status, invitee status, which is a special status that actually triggered a process where we started to integrate Finland and Sweden into our military and civilian structures. But of course, it is a different thing to be close and an invitee and to be a full member, which is the case for Finland.
Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko will travel to Moscow for 2 days of talks with Russia President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin disclosed this, noting that Mr. Putin and Mr. Lukashenko will hold talks on topical bilateral and international issues on Wednesday, before a meeting of the Supreme Council of the Union State on Thursday. Last week, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the two leaders would discuss Mr. Lukashenko's call for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine at an upcoming face-to-face meeting. Russia and Belarus are formerly part of a union state, a borderless union and alliance between the two ex-Soviet countries. In the meantime, Russia investigators have formally charged Aya Trepova with terrorism offenses over the killing of military blogger Vladan Tatarsky in a bomb blast in St. Petersburg. The pro-war military blogger Tatarsky, whose real name was Maxim Firmin, was killed on Sunday after an explosion hit a cafe where he was due to talk. The Russian Investigative Committee said it had charged Trepova with committing a terrorist act by an organized group that caused international death. It said she had acted under instructions from people working on behalf of Ukraine. Trepova was transferred from St. Petersburg to Moscow, where prosecutors were due to ask the Basmany District Court later today to place her in pre-trial detention. In the United Kingdom, Britain's data watchdog has fined TikTok £12.7 million for breaching data protection law, including the use of personal data of children aged under 13 without parental consent. The Information Commissioner's Office, ICO, estimated that TikTok allowed as many as 1.4 million UK children under 13 to use its platform in 2020, even though it sets 13 as the minimum age to create an account. The ICO said the data breaches occurred between May 2018 and July 2020, with the Chinese-owned video app not having done enough to check who was using the platform. UK Information Commissioner John Edwards said TikTok had not abided by the laws set to protect children in the digital world.
Our investigation has found that TikTok breached a number of data protection laws, including failing to use children's personal data lawfully. UK data protection law says that organisations that use personal data when offering information society services to children under 13 must have consent from their parents or carers. TikTok failed to do that. TikTok also failed to carry out adequate checks to identify and remove underage children from its platform. As a consequence, we've estimated 1 million under 13s were inappropriately granted access to the platform, with TikTok collecting and using their personal data. That means that their personal data may have been used to track them and profile them, potentially delivering harmful, inappropriate content at their very next scroll. TikTok should have known better. TikTok should have done better. Our £12.7 million fine reflects the serious impact that their failures may have.
Elsewhere in Europe, at least one person was killed and 30 were injured in the Netherlands when a passenger train carrying about 50 people derailed after hitting construction equipment on the track. The accident took place in the village of Voorschoten, about 55 kilometers south of the capital Amsterdam, at 3:30 a.m. this morning. The train was on its way from Leiden to The Hague when the accident happened. According to reports, two of the double-decker train's 4 carriages were derailed with a fire in the rear carriage that was later extinguished. Several ambulances and a helicopter were deployed to take seriously injured passengers to hospital, while train services on the route have been suspended. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Ahmadu Bello, Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back. Moving on, in the United States, thousands have gathered outside the Lower Manhattan court as police and supporters of Donald Trump prepare for the historic arraignment of the former president. While the indictment remains sealed, Mr. Trump is expected to face criminal charges related to a hush money payment he allegedly made to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels just before the 2016 presidential election. The report examines the legal travail of the former president as he appears in court later today.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has been consulting lawyers at Trump Tower in New York City as he prepares to face history-making criminal charges. The frontrunner to be Republican nominee in 2024 will appear in court on Tuesday and is set to be formally charged, fingerprinted, and have a mugshot taken in a watershed moment ahead of next year's presidential election. He is understood to have spent Monday evening at Trump Tower consulting with legal advisors, a team that grew with the addition of Todd Blanche, a white-collar criminal defense lawyer, an ex-federal prosecutor who previously represented one-time Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. Trump was indicted last week, becoming the first sitting of former president to face criminal charges over a case involving a 2016 hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. He has said he is innocent and is due to plead not guilty. On Tuesday morning, dozens of police and court officers, as well as Secret Service agents, are expected to escort Mr. Trump through the streets of New York to the Lower Manhattan court complex. The specific charges in the indictment by a grand jury convened are due to be disclosed on Tuesday. Trump and his allies have portrayed the charges as politically motivated. Trump is set to face 34 felony counts for falsification of business records. Extra security measures are in place, with the authorities expecting protests outside the Manhattan court today. The court system is set to be collaborating with the New York City Police Department, the U.S. Secret Service, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to ensure orderly proceedings. On Monday, New York City Mayor Eric Adams warned any would-be agitators against initiating violence in response to Trump's arraignment. Adams specifically touched on the potential for Trump supporters to riot in defense of the former president.
Some rabble-rousers thinking about coming to our city tomorrow, our message is clear and simple. Control yourselves. New York City is our home, not a playground for your misplaced anger. We are the safest large city in America because we respect the rule of law in New York City. And although we have no specific threats, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is known to spread misinformation and hate speech, she stated she's coming to town. While you're in town, be on your best behavior. As always, we will not allow violence or vandalism of any kind, and if one is caught participating in any act of violence, they will be arrested and held accountable.
But the NYPD and U.S. Secret Service, through its spokesperson, declined to issue a comment on security logistics or go into detail about plans for Trump's surrender to New York authorities. The U.S. Secret Service did issue a statement saying that decisions around courtroom access and related procedures are determined by court officials. The Manhattan investigation is just one of several legal challenges concerning Trump. Trump also faces a separate criminal probe into whether he unlawfully tried to overturn his 2020 election defeat in Georgia, and 2 investigations by a special counsel, including over his handling of classified documents after leaving office. Any potential trial in the Manhattan case is still at least more than a year away, legal experts said, meaning it could occur during or after the presidential campaign. An indictment or even a conviction do not legally prevent Trump from running for president. Trump's campaign raised $7 million in the 3 days after word of the indictment emerged last Thursday, senior advisor Jason Miller said, and issued the latest in several fundraising emails, taking aim at the media's reporting of the indictment.
So President Trump is very much emboldened. He's very strong. He feels the support from all the people who are backing him. And so tomorrow on Monday, he'll be flying up to New York, of course, head down to the courthouse on Tuesday morning. And then it's going to be announced here very shortly where President Trump is going to be giving a speech on Tuesday night at Mar-a-Lago, 8:15 p.m. I think the entire world will be watching just how strong and just how fervent he is that we must continue this Make America Great Again movement, because you can't have Trump policies without President Trump. Nobody wants to go see the tribute band when the Rolling Stones are still playing. They're here for President Trump, and the Republican Party is solidly behind him. And as Jimmy pointed out, even in the general election, he has a decisive lead over Joe Biden.
Media outlets lobbied Judge Yuan Marchand to allow cameras inside the court, a motion that was opposed by Mr. Trump's legal team because, as said, it would create a circus-like atmosphere at the arraignment. But on Monday night, Judge Marchand ruled that some press photographers will be allowed to take pictures for several minutes before the arraignment formally starts. The former president is expected to be released on bail and to return to his Florida home, Mar-a-Lago, on Tuesday evening, where he plans to deliver remarks at 8:15 local time. Temi Tokbe, Ajijola Oluwaola, Western Spring Television.
Meanwhile, India has outrightly rejected China's attempt to rename places in the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh Foreign Ministry. Spokesperson Aridam Bhatia made this known, stating that the state has been and will always be an integral and an inalienable part of India. His comments came after reports said that China has renamed 11 places along a disputed Himalayan border region in the state, but Beijing is yet to comment on the issue. China and India share disputed 2,100 miles along the facto border called the Line of Actual Control, which is poorly demarcated. China continues to stake claim on the whole of Arunachal Pradesh, calling it South Tibet. Still in India, an avalanche in the northeastern state of Sikkim has killed at least 7 people, injured 17, and trapped an unknown number of tourists. According to rescue officials, all 7 killed today were tourists, and at least 30 people are feared trapped in the snow. The incident took place on the outskirts of Gangtok, capital of the Himalayan state, and on the road to Canggu Lake. Police official Tenzing Lorden said survivors were pulled from the snow and taken to hospital for treatment after the avalanche occurred along the Nathhu La Pass, which is along the border with China and is a major tourist destination. The army said 5 to 6 vehicles carrying up to 30 tourists on the way to Nathhu La between Sikkim and Tibet appeared to be buried under the snow. The incident took place at 11:30 a.m. 600 GMT, an army statement said. In neighboring Pakistan, the Supreme Court has declared the poll panel's decision to delay the assembly election in 2 provinces as unconstitutional. Today's meeting of the top court judges followed a petition filed by the main opposition Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party led by former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Mr. Khan's party had challenged the Commission's election of Pakistan's decision to delay the Punjab polls after the government refused to give funds to conduct the exercise, citing the economic crisis. While Pakistan holds the national and provincial elections together, the Election Commission Pakistan is bound by the Constitution to hold elections within 90 days of the dissolution of a legislative assembly. In other news, the new representative of Venezuela's opposition in the United States is urging the Biden administration to relax crippling oil sanctions on Nicolas Maduro's government, or risk seeing the socialist-run country turn into another Cuba. Fernando Blas's comment represents a sharp break from the opposition's maximum pressure campaign of the past 4 years, when it was relying on the U.S. to muzzle Maduro out of power. Blas discussed the future of U.S. sanctions in recent meetings with mainly Democratic members of Congress, including the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Gregory Meeks. The Biden administration has signaled it is prepared to provide sanctions relief in exchange for concrete steps by Maduro, such as promising not to ban whatever candidate emerges from opposition primaries later this year. Now talking sports. Manchester United defender Luke Shaw has signed a new 4-year contract to keep him at the club until June 2027. The 27-year-old will extend his stay at Old Trafford to more than a decade after joining from Southampton in 2014. Shaw has had an excellent season under manager Erik ten Hag, making 36 appearances in all competitions, scoring once and assisting 6 times. The English left-back, speaking after signing the new contract, said he was happy to extend his 9-year stay with the club. Manager Erik ten Hag said he was happy with the extensions, adding that he was the kind of player his team needs.
I think it's a good message. England international is doing really well this season. I'm really happy with them. I think he is... he's a modern left fullback, but can play also other positions, left centre back. So he matches absolute the standards we want to have. So very good message.
Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. The House of Representatives has condemned calls for an interim government in the country after May 29, 2023. Finland has joined NATO in a historic shift that brings an official end to the Nordic nations' principle of neutrality. Thousands have gathered outside a Lower Manhattan court as police and supporters of Donald Trump prepare for the historic arraignment of the former president. Remember to follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Evelyn Uhiole. Good evening to you.